I got challenged to 1v1 by my chat, and I couldn't turn down an easy challenge. If you're wondering how this all happened, I got asked if I play other games in my Twitch chat, which by the way, if you haven't already, follow my Twitch, same as my YouTube, and follow my TikTok and other social medias. Links are down below. Anyway, the first game that I got challenged to was Pokemon. Now, I know a pretty good amount about Pokemon, but I don't really keep up with the meta, so I don't know how to do any of that team building stuff or anything. I also don't know anything about the newer Pokemon. Like, seriously? You're telling me this is an actual Pokemon? Yeah, okay. Anyway, the only way we could set this up is if we did Pokemon Showdown, and if we did random battles below Gen 7. So we agreed to do a Gen 6 random battle. Now if you didn't know, fairy types were introduced in this gen, and I know very little about them, so I had to look up what's super effective against them in the middle of the battle. Also, there was another issue with this. I was live streaming, so that means everyone could see my gameplay and counter what I was gonna do. I wasn't gonna let that stop me though. We begin the battle and I start out with my Yveltal against King's Latias. Now the other thing I forgot to mention was that I only played Gen 6 once, so I didn't know anything about what Pokemon I actually had out right now. I play things safe and use U-turn, which allows me to get some chip damage off while I switch Pokemon. He switches into Hitmonlee and I get some damage off while switching into my Spiritomb. This works out in my favor since fighting type moves aren't affected by ghost types. In my head, I'm thinking that he's just gonna switch since he can't really do anything against me, so I go for a Calm Mind setup. I was correct on the switch, but the issue here is that he switched into some dancing Pokemon who happens to not only be a fairy type but also is a rock type, so I can't go for Dark Pulse here. After a quick Google search of what fairy types are good against, I began to search through my party to see what I can switch into. I go into my Audino on the incoming Moonblast and I noticed that not only did I resist that hit, but I also have a massive defense stat, and I have the perfect moveset to stall since I have Toxic, Protect, and Wish. At this point, I already knew the game was over, but we continue. I use Wish as he goes into Hitmonlee, and I don't want them to hit me with a super effective fighting type move, so I decided to switch into my Spiritomb who can deal with that. Unfortunately for me, he goes for Knockoff, which not only got some good damage on me, but it took off my leftovers. Luckily, I was able to gain some of the HP back with the Wish that I used with my Audino, but now I have to make sure I don't make another careless mistake like that. I decide to get some damage off with my Dark Pulse, and he switches into Diancie who resists my hit. I go back into my Audino, and with my massive defense stat, I'm able to use Wish to keep myself at a high enough HP and use Toxic to start giving myself an advantage with some of the poison damage. At this point, I was thinking, what if his only fighting type move was High Jump Kick? If you don't already know, it's a 75% accurate move, and if it misses, you lose a big chunk of your HP. To test this theory, I used Protect to see if he would go for it, but instead he goes for Knockoff, which was also fine because he's losing more HP to the poison. From here, I thought he would switch again back into Diancie because that's the pattern I was noticing, so I swap into my Gorebyss who can deal with it, but instead he stayed and used Knockoff again. This was also a fine play as Gorebyss can resist any hits Hitmonlee kicks at me. You see what I did there? Kick, any hit he can throw at me, but he's a kicking Pokemon. You guys get it? From here, I thought he was going to switch Pokemon because I had an advantage, so I went with Shell Smash. And just as I thought, he had High Jump Kick this whole time. He missed, crashed, and died, as I'm able to get off a Shell Smash and raise my stats. From here he brings in Electros, and this is where I can begin my sweep on his entire... wait, what? Electric is super effective against water? Must have been a new Gen 6 detail they added. I go into my Audino and I use my Toxic strategy from earlier. He gets hit with the poison and makes a U-turn into Roserade. I was curious to see what move he would hit me with, but that was also another crucial misplay, as he used Spikes. That means any Pokemon I switch into now will take unnecessary chip damage. But there was one small detail I remembered back in 2014, which was like, what, 3 years ago? Mr. Lowell told me that flying Pokemon don't get affected by Spikes. Anyway, I use Oblivion Wing and he switches into his Diancie. I can't really do much else, so I decided to switch, but I use U-turn just because I can get the extra chip damage in, and I go back into my Audino. I go with my Toxic strategy while I keep my HP as high as I can. I stall out his Toxic with a Protect, but he goes for a setup move, Calm Mind. I need to play this carefully before he starts to sweep my entire team. And I get the best possible outcome. He uses Draco Meteor, which is unaffected by my Fairy type, while I get a super effective Dazzling Gleam off. From here, I can tell he doesn't want to lose his Latias, so he switches into Roserade. I can't tell what he's going to use, so I swapped into my Yveltal, thinking I can just get some of that HP I lost with Oblivion Wing. I'm faster than him, and I can get the kill from this range. I use the move, and... wait, what? I'm not faster? I guess all of my years of Pokemon have meant nothing. All of my Pokemon knowledge is just meaningless. Maybe I just don't know the game as much as I think I do. Nah, I'm just kidding. You guys really think I'm about to lose this 1v1? I go into my Reuniclus and I use Trick Room. If you don't know how Trick Room works, basically it just makes slower Pokemon fast and fast Pokemon slow. So my 56 speed Reuniclus can now outspeed and take out this Roserade with Psyshock. King didn't expect that one. Then I take out his Latios with Shadow Ball. From here I could have probably swapped into another Pokemon to save my Pokemon, but with the HP he had, I wouldn't really be able to swap him in to outspeed and kill something since Trick Room takes a turn to set up, and I would already be taking damage on the switch. Instead, I sack and get some damage off so I can switch into Audino. I go with the same strat, but this time I also get hit with Toxic. I try to stay at a decent HP and make a swap over to Bibarel. He makes a switch to Diancie and I take that out with a clean Waterfall. He goes into his Electros and I kind of forgot he had Giga Drain, but I was at least able to get some good damage in before I sacked my Bibarel. From here I'm able to use Wish to get more HP and the poison damage takes out Electros. Final Pokemon is Swampert. From here I can stall a little with Audino, then bring in my final Pokemon Spiritomb to finish the battle. After that, we decided to do a best out of 3, and I got the win again. So that's 1v1 down. My next opponent is in Rocket League, and little do they know I'm a pro at this game. Alright, let's not take a look at that. He starts with an early lead, but I know I can keep up the pressure, and I bounce back. I'm a little rusty, but that won't matter. He goes up and he tries to flip reset on my mom? What is going on here? He messes up and I take the open net. I see that he goes for some misplays, and I try to punish those mistakes. I kinda suck, but that's alright, because he misses the ball and I can take another open net goal. From here I get a little too confident and I see him starting up a dribble. I shadow defend the best as I can, but he hits me with a delayed flick, tying the game. I'm able to play the ball around, getting a flick into his corner, making sure I take the boost, and doing the same thing going into his other corner. At this point he's pretty low on boost, so I can just outspeed here and get another goal. I get a pretty good kickoff and he kind of leaves the ball open. So I just go for a classic kickoff goal and he hits me with the I'm lagging. Maybe having my stream open had something to do with it, but I don't know. We get the win. I wasn't sure if he wanted to play again, but he was down, so I played him best 2 out of 3. And I beat him again. He wanted a game 3, and for whatever reason he wanted to go into overtime, but with my massive score lead he couldn't do it, so I beat him again. He wanted another match against me, and this time he really wanted to go into overtime, so after scoring 7 goals, I let him catch up, and we begin our overtime match. Next goal wins the game. I'll just play this one out. Alright. That's overtime. You can lag. Oh no. It's okay, it happens. And there we go. We won our Pokemon match and we won the game in Rocket League. Now time for the final, ultimate 1v1 battle. I got challenged to a 1v1 on Osu. Now I haven't really played the game properly for about a year since I haven't really had time to grind it again, but I still play it from time to time. Now for a 1v1, we decided to pick lower star maps, ones that were ranked, and basically whoever loses gets to pick the next map. The unfortunate thing about Osu is that basically every song is copyrighted, so I'll just show you some clips from the map without the audio, just to give you guys an understanding of how difficult the map was. I start things off with an old classic, and I knew for a fact that I was gonna win this map because this was an impossible one to play when I was first learning the game. And it still is impossible since I'm not a good reading player. Anyway, I win the first map. The next one is a mix of small circles and low AR, and overall just a complete mess of a map. If he picks stuff like this, it will be super close. I come out with another close win. The next song is a high BPM map, which is also low AR, which I can kinda surprisingly do. I kinda trolled the map a little bit, but I'm a little bit rusty, so maybe we can just use that as an excuse. Now, the next few maps that Flip chose were kind of interesting, but it wasn't enough. And I'll just show you a quick clip of each one here. Pretty easy stuff. It's not really easy, but we did it. We managed to get the dub there, and I was able to get the first round. Now, for the second round, we decided to use Score V2. And with that, the matches would be a lot closer. Now, I can tell that Flips really wants to win, because he goes for the ultimate troll maps, and he kept it really close with me, but it just wasn't enough for him to win. I kept winning on each map, and I was just ready for whatever he threw at me. The final map he decided to go with was an easy hidden on the good old classic Big Black. Now, I couldn't really get a good combo to save my life, so this was a super close game. Luckily, I was able to hit just a bit more notes, and I just make it by. And with that, we got our win. And after all these 1v1s, all 3 games, we won. GG's to everyone, and you know, maybe next time you guys can train a little bit harder, because I'm not going to be losing at all. I would never lose to chat. That would never happen to me. If any of you guys play Overwatch, let me know in the comments down below, and I can hook you up with some free coaching from me. On that note, thank you all, and I'll see you all later.